Okay, my first video reviewing film. So this is intended for a Christian audience, but I think non-believers will can get a lot from it too. I mean, it turns out a lot of films seem to operate on Jungian principles. Seems to be the deepest kind of principles I can find in films generally. So yeah, whether I can recommend it to my audience, that would mean I've learned this lesson from it. Um, so pay attention to these things, kind of the interpretive keys to unlock, a succession of doors. And then hopefully you could get more out of it even. Um, if I thought that I could just interpret it exhaustively or something, then why would I recommend it? I'd just be like, just listen to my review or something. Um, Also, sub criteria there are like how wholesome is it, and parts that align with Christianity, and then how much of it is like know thine enemy. You know, how is the enemy operating? Now, I don't mean that like, okay, just don't worry, right? It's a culture war, though. We are in culture wars, fifth generation warfare, etc. So now, most films, of course, are not made in a completely wholesome way. I think everyone knows that. Um, so I try my best to separate these two parts from each other. And sometimes I recommend a film, even though you have to cut away most of it um, as garbage. I mean, you can get the bad parts. You can learn a lesson from the bad parts, even. So, you know, when I don't recommend a film, it's because it's just not worth your time, and yeah, you should just listen to my review. And usually it's when it's bad. In this video, I'm gonna be not recommending one of the 8 films. In the next video I plan to make, I will not recommend again one film out of 5 that I'll review. Okay, so the most recent one I saw, Howl's Moving Castle from Studio Ghibli. It's a Miyazaki film. I think the main thing that you get from this is a yin yang model. Some interesting information about yin and yang. I would recommend, by the way, Roots of Everything with Zachary Bourku, talking about this very thing, yin and yang. And he's an Orthodox Christian scholar. And I think it's it's brilliant idea to take that symbol and baptize it, right? Because that's, by the way, to zoom out again on why I'm doing this, is to be the bee, to go out from the church like a bee goes out from the hive, collects pollen from all these different uh, flowers, leaves all the poisonous stuff that you can't use behind, comes back, converts it into something good. And again, that's from St. Basil's letter to the youth about the use of pagan literature. So yes, pagan literature. I think St. John Damascus also uses maybe not the bee, but I mean, they talk about despoiling the Egyptians as well. So what you start with in this film are a boy, a girl. Neither of them are, I would say, virtuous, but they move towards virtue. I don't think they end up virtuous, um, but they progress towards it. So that's my favorite thing. That's what I'm always looking for in film is character development And if not that, then character depth, an explanation of why a good person is good, why a bad person is bad, how to go from bad to good, and sometimes how good people become bad, the other direction, right? And if only history were taught from the point of view of there's good and evil in the world, that doesn't mean that it's really easy to tell who's good or who's evil. But when you give up that lens, everything becomes boring and dead. So once you adopt values and look through the historical data with values, it doesn't mean that you use sweeping generalizations and categorize things in a clumsy manner. No, it's incredibly nuanced, and maybe often you can't even say who's good or who's bad. But that doesn't mean you should pretend you don't have values and, this whole skeptical humanist point of view. But anyway, getting back to Howl's Moving Castle. So Sophie Hatter has lost her dad, I think, before she was 8 or 7, and she is the eldest of 3 daughters. So she takes on a kind of animus drive or animus complex, you might say. That means the masculine model. This is kind of the way I would redescribe it. The model of the masculine in the woman's mind, animus. The feminine model in the man's mind is the anima. Okay, so we're always working with the model way of understanding the other. But in the yin and yang, you've got the black dot in the white swoosh, and you got the white swoosh in the black. Wait, I mixed that up. Okay, white dot in the black swoosh, and a black dot in the white swoosh. Okay. Um, I don't think masculine and feminine can be defined. They seem to be basic concepts that can't be broken down any further. But there are many idiomata belonging to each one. And a man will have to use or activate feminine idiomata sometimes, and vice versa. We are sexually dimorphic, but we are not as dimorphic as other species. We aren't like we aren't opposites. That's the thing about complementarity. The two complementary poles are not opposites of each other. They're not negations of each other. So there is a kind of common ground. Are we going to say intelligence, for example, is masculine or feminine? It's either one, right? So, if we're going to say masculine is going forth and leading, and the feminine is withdrawing and hiding and being unknown, well, there are certain things that women should initiate, should just do in a way that's not reactive, right? And then there are things where men should, I don't know, for example, pull with questions, and not necessarily speak and speak in monologue, right? So like a listening role, as just 2 examples. So Sophie had her fatherless, unfortunately, and working in the hat shop that her dad left them, and they're undergoing financial problems, and she feels like she has to be the man of the house, and she's working herself a little bit too much while they're going out, and that's how this begins. Her sisters are going out, and she decides to stay and work more. Well, it's a bit excessive. I mean, she's a young girl. I don't know what the age is supposed to be in the film, but it looks like, that's when relationships start at that age. So she's holed up, and she is attractive. Um, we're supposed to think that in this film is she's attractive young girl. I mean, it's a cartoon, but what are you gonna do, right? And so she gets this kind of guilt complex that she's wasting this beauty if she's hiding it. And so you already have a really interesting um, complex that begins just from that. And then she hears about Hal. I guess, Hal has this reputation of being this wizard because there's magic in this film, by the way. It's a big element. And he's like the most powerful wizard around. So, of course, uh, a girl's going to be attracted to that almost just from that. But then he also is very physically attractive, um, socially smooth. Uh, anyway, so they eventually interact. He gets her out of this bad situation. Um, and I think the witch in the story, who kind of serves as another message about femininity, toxic femininity, um, is notices that she wants Hal or something. She's this vengeful, jealous ex lover or something like that. So she puts a curse on Sophie, and she becomes like 70 years old. And here's where the film actually, where the narrative hits a crucial turning point. So at first she panics, and then the next day she wakes up, looks in the mirror, she's still old. By the way, the curse is that she's old and she can't talk about who did it or something like that. She looks in the mirror, realizes she's still old, and then she says, "You're still in good shape," about herself, and now your clothes suit you or match you or something. And then just decides to go to where the wizards are or something. I think in order to find Howl, maybe not with that express purpose, but she ends up finding his castle almost right away when she sets out. And the part about this is interesting is that the curse ends up setting her free, but not by itself. So her reaction to being cursed like that is what sets her free. She just accepts that she's cursed and is super old. And now that she's no longer beautiful, she no longer has this guilt complex, and she goes straight to, well, finds Howl's castle and then goes straight in, and then uses her cunning to like pretend she's the cleaning lady, gets her foot in the door, gives herself a job basically, and actually starts working for him, and actually caring for him like a grandma. And it turns out that her caring for him eventually, kind of by accident, reveals one of his flaws. And then we start to learn about the flaws that Hal has as a character. And then later, she's sent on a mission to respond to like one of his employers or something. And it's very complicated, but she ends up defending him despite his flaws. And this is the first time that she starts to get over the curse. Like she just gradually becomes a young girl again as she's defending him. So it's something like love is what lifts the curse. But that's never really spelled out how. I could be wrong, but that's my interpretation. And then uh, he, as a result, starts to love her and then gets over his flaws. So this is one of those films where like the female character is pretty clearly the protagonist. I mean, she and Hal are the main characters, but this is kind of like Zelda, where Zelda's actually not really the main character, but it's the title of the piece. So because she sees him and cares about him, which was a result of her caring for him. She didn't like quite know if she really liked him at first. Because of that, he ends up liking her, and we hear about like his history. So what's going on with Hal? Um, the civilization's at war over something really stupid, and the director kind of took the book in this direction a little more than the author of the book. He's critiquing the Iraq War at the time, and so like both sides are corrupt, and Hal is like kind of messing with both of them. Presumably, he's trying to stop the war by kind of sabotaging both sides. Um, and he's also kind of helping both sides. Like he has like a vendor or a shop where he kind of gives like remedies or something to one town, and then he kind of helps with errands or something in the other warring side. And he just sleeps around apparently and hides, mostly hides. So he's avoiding responsibility. That's kind of the corrupt masculine type. Um, the world is corrupt, and that's your excuse for not developing. Um, that's the corrupt masculine. And then Sophie, as he says in part of the film, he says that she is someone to protect. So now he has this higher purpose of protecting her. Um, Again, not so virtuous because like there's a little kid working for him too. So apparently the kid wasn't worth protecting. But anyway, so the message seems to be the hidden message of this film is that the curse can become the blessing. Um, Now it depends on how you respond to it, of course, and that is one. That is the main reason that I give it like a 3.5 stars out of 5 because like I took a star away because of that turning point not being spelled out very much. So she looks in the mirror, she's still old, and she doesn't know if she'll ever lift this curse. And yet she just accepts it stoically, almost joyfully. Um, this kind of lifts the complex, the guilt of misusing or wasting time in which she could be using her beauty to attract the powerful man who can then get her out of the hat making situation. Um, yeah, so like it lifts the guilt, but I don't think that would be a it's an unusual response. Like we could say, okay, Sophie's just a really uh, talented, gifted, good-hearted by nature kind of character, and that she makes that stoic choice. That's great, but I don't know. The film is kind of leaning on that idea of like the guilt complex is lifted, and now she can just interact with this guy that she likes, but also she probably has reason to expect that he's the like most powerful wizard. He could probably lift this curse, and then I would be a beautiful girl again. So something about it is like maybe a little too easy, but actually now that I spell it out even more than my written review, maybe only deserves half a star removed from that. And then the other half star had to do with the war theme kind of becoming uh, well, it's really flat. Basically, it's like civilization is just willpower and it's stupid, and magic is good. But then, it's kind of nuanced because the the witches and wizards are recruited into the war and they willingly go to either side. So it's a little nuanced, but it's pretty clear that like the um, the magic world is like the intelligence and the civilization is will, and Howl defecting kind of means that like the will is now irrational and stupid. That seems to be the symbolic, you know, logic going on. But then if that's the case, what's the critique of war? Well, it's no longer the director's critique of the Iraq War. And I know if you dig into even mainstream propaganda about war, you're going to find more reasons than the reasons they had in the film, which was just the prince of one side went missing, and then they suspected the other side of abducting the prince, and everything was really tense already, and then that sparks the war. But there's this like circle going on because at least in the symbolic logic I just mentioned, because it's like, well, if that happened because civilization is, or kind of what do you call it, non-magical civilization is stupid, and because it's missing Hal as its intelligence, but Hal is avoiding civilization because it's stupid. Like there's no critique. I don't know, the way that that war is presented is kind of, it's just a little bit too flat. It's like non-magical civilization is stupid, and yet when you dig into it, um, as much as I just have, it's like actually even more, paradoxical and deep than the than the film itself seems to let on. In other words, like it's like if the film was more self-aware, it wouldn't present non-magical civilization as so brutish and stupid. So yeah, about four stars, you could say. All right, the next film is Mad Max Furiosa. Um, I would recommend this not as like, okay, Howl's Moving Castle is not exactly wholesome perfectly. But overall, yeah, that's what you would get from it. It's not like a no thine enemy type film. Now, Mad Max, on the other hand, is kind of no thine enemy type of film. So the parts that I really didn't like were the beginning, where there's like your patriarchal, diesel-based society, and then your eco-feminist society with like wind turbines that's kind of like hidden, and they actually are bringing nature, like green plants and everything back. Um, and and then Furiosa goes missing. She's abducted by the patriarchal. Look, I don't know the names for all these things. It doesn't matter to me that much. This film. Um, so anyway, she goes missing, and then who sets out to look for her? Two women. I think one of them, her mother. And you see a bunch of guys in this society, but they don't go out to look for her. Okay, so we see already this very like blatant, eco-feminist message. I did like how they had this like faith, and like it was done really well. Like I was like, oh yeah, can you kind of feel that? And she knows how to like, use this gun and like fix this motorcycle to, chase after the kidnapped girl. And then I guess I should get to the other bad part more at the end, but um, in the after that beginning part, it becomes a pretty pretty good film, and especially good when the main guy character shows up, and Furiosa is like, battling these guys on this truck, right? And the main guy character is driving the truck, and yeah, it's a little unrealistic, like these female characters who are doing such intense acrobatic physical ninja type things, all the physical prowess, but like, okay, if we can just let go of that part. Look, the church never denied that women can and even should have the warrior virtues, or um, be brave, be strong, and there's nothing like So, in other words, what is the eco what is the advantage of ecofeminism? There isn't one. There's only minuses, which we'll get to later. But so, and then the way that she's revealed, because at first he thinks he's another guy, because she's disguised as a guy to get out of her like captive situation. So like there's that theme that is in Mulan, right? But also in the Orthodox tradition, we have Saint Theodosia of Gaza. More than one actually, I think, where the there's no convent or something. So in their area, or to be monastics, they disguise themselves as monks. Okay, obviously for different reasons, but um, anyway, in the scene where she is revealed as a girl and he sees it, it's really great. And then they make these plans to escape this dystopian society together. Um, really like that part. And then by the scene where she loses her arm, uh, when they get captured again, and then they don't make it, and they end up killing the guy, and she loses her arm, and it just becomes totally dark after that. Like, um, it become after that, the film becomes it's like before that it was like, okay, were we watching an epic of returning home, of escaping the dystopia, the state of being lost or in exile, whatever you want to say, uh, or then at that point it's like, are we watching a tragedy now, or like it's like this revenge. The theme becomes about revenge at that point. And there are still some good lines after this point. Like she captures Dementis, the guy who is the main villain, and she has him under her thumb. And the dialogue between them, still some pretty good lines. There is some pretty poetic writing in this film. So some good lines there, like "You're gonna become just like me," like you would expect that line, but it was presented pretty well. But then uh, she does take revenge on him, and the way that she takes revenge on him is actually subverting not just civilization, which is based on like yin and yang harmony, which we thought we were going to get there between these two. Then it's the failure of the man, and then it's uh, the necessity of this vengeful goddess archetype, the necessity of revenge to restore balance. And there's even I'm just going to spoil it. There's like a tree growing out of him in the end, and that's how she takes revenge. This kind of what's the Prometheus bound kind of thing. So this like neo-pagan revenge myth uh, takes takes the place of not just civilization, because the man fails. He's shown to fail from the very beginning, and then we think, oh, maybe he'll succeed, and then no, he fails too. They were like equals in a way, and then he happens to fail. So it's not like by her own efforts that she comes out alive and then he dies, but it's like just by chance. But also Christianity is subverted by this. Why? Because the tree, it's okay, so Christ takes death and turns it into a doorway into life. So it's this what's called retorsion, uh, turning the e- turning everything to the good, including the evil that's directed completely against the good. It's like turning it 180 degrees around. Um, so here you have him bound or whatever, and uh, he's become the soil or something to help grow this tree. So it has that appearance of 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 a Christian message, but it's just for revenge. So yeah, very like blunt propagandistic type film where um, there's a scene where, okay, when the mother is still chasing after her kidnapped daughter, um, there's a woman in the patriarchal camp who pretends like first she's held at gunpoint to give up the girl, which she does, but then she starts alerting all the guys like she's getting away. So the mother spares her because this woman is a woman. And then she even says like I'm a mother too. So like she spares her because she's a mother. But then even that is not enough because she's gone to the dark side. So yeah, I mean the film's not saying like okay, women are angels, but there's this message of women have to correct the imbalance here by becoming this by becoming nemesis, like the vengeful angel. Yeah, and when you compare that with like, there's the gasoline diesel based patriarchy and then you have the wind turbine eco-feminist society. Yeah, I mean it's a very blunt blunt object. I think another flaw of this is that like the way that she loses her arm and like goes untreated and then like figures out how to get a robotic arm and stuff. It's like we've ventured into magical realism at this point. So whereas it didn't seem to be there before. So it's like you needed to change the genre just to make this message about uh, the balancing of forces and the vengeful goddess coming out on needing to come out on top. Okay, the next one is Bugonia. Uh, there is pretty much no character development or depth here. I was interested the whole way through though for two reasons. First, I mean the reason I wanted to watch the film to begin with is like there's clearly like a message that the director is giving about kind of ordinary Americans. And given Emma Stone's character, they're put in contrast with like the corporate elite, but also like the kind of feminist DEI corporate elite, um, given her corporate uh, uh, um, setting. So I wanted to know what is the message that he's trying to convey here, um, because the guys who abduct um, the CEO girl, whose name in the film I forget. I'm just gonna say Emma Stone. Okay, the guys end up being right that she's an alien who's trying to destroy the planet. So they end up being right in their conclusion, and they're like clearly portrayed as um, well the main guy. The other guy is like so handicapped that he doesn't really have much agency, and so it's mainly the I'm just gonna call him the main white dude, vigilante type guy. Uh, he's clearly portrayed as like a conspiracy theorist, um, and he's straight, white, uh, not Christian, but there's even a monastic element in this as well. This kind of foolish biohacking version of monasticism in that he is uh, practicing. So I was like, yeah, what is this? This is clearly a like a psyop type of film. Which, by the way, if I ever seem like I'm coming across with the C word theory, please let me know in the comments or whatever. Like, just whatever your evidence is to the contrary. I'm very very open minded to how conspiracies aren't actually happening. I would love to see all your evidence for that. But usually what I end up seeing is more like stuff they teach you in high school and no responses to the sources that I rely on. Like stuff like Kissinger, Brzezinski, um, Alfred McKinder, who else? And Quigley, Carol Quigley, of course. Anthony Sutton a bit. So I have to say that as a disclaimer because anyway, so I wanted to find out what the message was there. And then also, it was done well in terms of like the psychological suspense because there were at least two times that I doubted that the main white guy was right, um, even though that I knew that in the end she turns out to really be an alien. So really good psychological techniques that this film has. It's also maybe a little nuanced because this main character's mom was kind of feeding him the anti elite, anti corporate ideology that he ends up kind of scaffolding from to get to his like alien knowledge. But it's another one like Bird Box. I think there's a white older as well straight male character who is right about what's going on, and yet you pay attention to the narrative. He's an unlikable character. You're not supposed to like this character, but he's right. So it's like they're trying to make it so that even if the person of this social profile tells you something that's true, you should still despise them based on your collectivist revenge model of ethics. Here too, Emma Stone's character is the likable one, and I don't just mean that as like I don't exactly mean the narrative is like saying that you're supposed to, but she literally is a more likable character in this. Like especially the song that she's listening to in her Jeep, and it's like she's intelligent and also quick, not just quick-witted, but um, more caring, more open to dialogue. It's the main vigilante character is not open to dialogue, and but all of it's really interesting. All the lines that this main vigilante character, white guy, has seem to be seem to be extracted from AI like statistics on like this population, this demographic. Um, they're preparing to abduct her and getting all this these tools to do it. And the handicap sidekick says like, aren't they going to find us? And he says, no one cares about us, Donnie. No one cares about us. Which implying more than just the two of them. Uh, also some of them are just kind of weird. Like he's against university system, and he says like it's a system for laundering privilege. I'm not really sure what that means. I think that there is a whole lot of corruption. I don't recommend most like 90% of people to go. It is still a class-based thing, even though they're allowing people from below that class in since the 70s or whenever this started happening. And that's like a ruse. That's like a trap. It's not. It's not sincere. Not saying that you can't meritocratically rise if you're lucky, but what is a system for laundering privilege? I'm not even sure what that means. And also, like he's against dialogue because it's just talking without ever getting to the practical. But anyway, he ends up failing to make it to the mothership, and then she goes to the mothership and decides to wipe out all human beings. I don't know how exactly. Maybe like it's kind of like a virus, or has something to do with something in the air. I don't know. And all the animals are still alive. The plants are still alive. Um, so what's happening here is the critique of his character. Like he's resentful about her corporation poisoning his family, killing his family members. And he's resentful about it, and he's shown in multiple scenes, like he's screaming in the car and stuff. He has these like pent up anger issues. Um, and the message seems to be if he had just got past his resentment, he would be able to see the global perspective and see, and not only that, but he uses this like biological knowledge to be able to identify the aliens. And with that same biological knowledge, he could have found this other thing, which is a premise in the film, that human beings have a violence selfish gene. So he could have found that himself, but he was so resentful about the corporation messing up, destroying his family and his community, and so he's stuck in the local bubble. But if he had just got over the resentment, he could see with his same level of biology knowledge and intelligence, he could see the selfish gene in human beings. And we find out that's why the aliens are going to destroy all human beings because they're unsalvageable. And he should have let go of his mom because they were experimenting on her in order to like fix this gene. So he would have consented to her getting sick. He would have consented to them destroying, possibly consented to them destroying the planet if he had just seen what they do, what the aliens do, if he had just got over his resentment. So, in other words, it's like thinking locally and not being a globalist that has this environmental based, um, eco-feminist again message uh, is like, okay, I lost my sentence there, but thinking locally and is bad, and then thinking globally like an eco-feminist is good. Yeah, that's the message here, and that's the character of Emma Stone being so likable is supposed to help give that message force. But it's clearly like crazy. Like, why should we agree or have affection for this character that wants to that thinks that it's rational to destroy all the human beings? Because apparently there can be such a thing as this gene in all of human beings that makes them selfish so that they are violent towards each other, but also violent and destructive towards their own planet, right? So yeah, it's a gene, and so there's this whole like genetic therapy component in the film, which is supposed to help us get over that. Wonder what that could be preparing for, helping us to accept. And then also, oh, if it doesn't work, then it's the most just thing to like without any dialogue actually, without any direct dialogue anyway. Apparently the aliens are trying to drop hints, or they think our own history was supposed to be enough of a hint that without dialogue unilaterally just wipe out the entire species. Like that's a just rational uh, response. Okay, the next one was a lot more fun. Project Hail Mary was a funner uh, one to watch. It's more like good vibes. Bugonia is kind of a thriller, slightly horror type movie, so just not typically my favorite. But yeah, Project Hail Mary also seemed to have like a statistically averaged out character where the again the straight white male guy is like also an INCL, uh, just like in Bugonia, and just like well, not exactly just like Mad Max Furiosa, but in Furiosa he dies. He's unable to. It's like he's not going to survive. Um, and then in these two, it's also kind of the same thing. The romance, it's not going to happen. That seems to be the message. And the next video, I'll review Drive, and it's like the same thing in Drive with Ryan Gosling's character. I hear I didn't see Barbie but I hear he does a lot of those doomer type like uh, monastic by not by choice kind of role. It's in Blade Runner 2. Anyway, so this one's very much like NASA propaganda, but that is, I mean, it's while it's obvious, there's a much more important thing to observe here. So there's the rocky creature, which is like the alien again, and it's intelligent just like us, but it's in a like a spider crab body that's made out of rocks. Okay. And there's a scene where Rocky is all very likable. They're both likable characters. It's a very pleasant film in a way. Um, Rocky saves uh, the Ryan Gosling character, and it's very touching. It's very moving, and this has been known to happen where an animal like a dog will will risk its own life to protect its companion, owner, person who feeds it, uh, or even not someone who feeds it. I think there's cases of that. This is very touching, actually, that scene. Um, and then to spoil it, he ends up, he could go home. Like he goes out so far into space that the only way that he's able to make it back is he gets the fuel from Rocky, and then while he's going back, he finds out that Rocky's not going to make it because of some unexpected thing. So he turns around and he knows he'll never make it back to save Rocky and that species. And it's at that point where we're supposed to believe that it's an of equal moral dignity and worth as a human being. And I was not moved at all by that because it's just not, it's just such a mixture. It has the same logic as reincarnation. An intelligence of that kind cannot properly inhabit that kind of body. Maybe it could remote control that kind of body, but that's not the picture we're given. We're saying that that body uh, was necessary to that intelligence. That's not true. Okay, it's just not true. They're trying to have us be moved. They're like, yes, of course, it's the white guy character already. Well, he had to be forced to this role, but like he was the perfect one for this role to. Um, yeah, it was a diverse crew, so maybe I'm playing on that chord a little too hard, but they all knew they were going to die on this mission. Um, Although he had to be the one that was forced to go on the mission, right? And then earlier, like he explains why his girlfriend left him, and it was because his head was too far in the clouds, right? So we get this, another critique of anyway. So like he's idealist, his head is in the clouds, but then when push comes to shove, he won't go on the journey that the diverse crew will go on to save the planet, right? But what's his redemption arc? His redemption arc is to uh, give his life for like an alien animal species. And this is all while like his character's likable and he's very intelligent and his knowledge was even needed to figure this out. So again, right, intelligent, even likable, but still this kind of pitiable character that I mean it's ambiguous. You can take it or leave it. You can like him or not with this one. Okay, I saw another sci-fi at the same time, and this is the one that I would not recommend. It's Gattaca. Um, the main character disguises himself using another character's biological material, and like his whole career progression is through the lie that he is this other guy who has the right genetics, because the whole society is based on, do you have the right genetics? You'll be promoted to a certain level based on your genetics and everything. And that's the dystopia. That's it. That's really all it is. You don't need to watch this film to get any more. Read Brave New World. You're going to get way more from that. Get the extended edition where Huxley has his talk that he gave in Berkeley. Like don't miss that version of the book. Um, but yeah, and the hilarious thing is that like his drive and it's this he actually has a romance that's like kind of successful, but his job takes priority. Okay, that's not it makes sense. Um, but what is it? His whole like dream is to go to space, and when they go to space, he's wearing a corporate suit. What are they doing in space in corporate suits? It's never explained. Oh, hilarious part of the film. It's also kind of shoehorned in there this message, like the guy whose genetic material he was taking um, became paraplegic, and that's why he was kind of out of the game and was able to give his material to this dude. But he ends up offing himself just because he served, like he helped somebody else with his dream, and like, but he can no longer have his dream, and then he kind of euthanizes himself. And the way the narrative kind of plays it is like it kind of passes it off as, yeah, that's okay to do. It's sad, but I don't know. So like your whole career is your goal is to be in space wearing a suit. We don't know anything more about what he's doing, and he's willing to just lie constantly and like to do that. It's bizarre. That is not how I'd say you should respond to dystopia. There's got to be you have to have a better goal than that, at least. Okay, we got three more, and the last two are like a pair, go together in a way, so it shouldn't take too long. But the next one I saw, and this is the most second to most recent I saw, was Shawshank Redemption, and like because it got so many good reviews, I thought it was not bad, but I wasn't I wasn't moved. I wasn't, you know, it wasn't bad. Um, the character of Andy is he's a good character, and it seems that we're supposed to like get his message of hope. That's like right on the face of it. But if you dig a little deeper, um, it's based on his perseverance. He sends letters constantly and ends up getting a library for the prison that way. And it takes him like 3 years of sending letters like every week or every something like every week. Um, and he also uses a rock, like a little rock hammer, which he carves chess pieces out of to tunnel through the prison wall, and that ends up being his escape. And he does that over like 19 years because every day he'll do this, and then he hides it with a poster. By the way, he's there innocently, so we're supposed to be like, great, this is and the warden is revealed to be super corrupt, murderous himself, posing as a Christian, by the way. Um, I don't know if that's relevant because it seems Andy is Christian in this film. This is made a while back, so I guess you could still have Christian main characters back then. Um, but anyway, it's clear that it's like a good thing that he escapes, in other words. But he does it on the basis of that, like everyday little bits, and yeah, so that's the only part I really liked. Oh, and he doesn't tell his best friend about it the whole time. I mean, it is the most rational thing to do because it could get his best friend Morgan Freeman's character into a lot of trouble if he knew about it. So it makes just sheer rational sense why he didn't tell his best friend. But it is this interesting thing that he has like this plot that he the whole time you don't know about, and then you even see things were written a certain way based on that future reveal. So like he keeps the hammer in the Bible, and there's a point where they do a room inspection, and they're gonna look at, and he grabs the Bible, but because Andy knows like verses by heart, he ends up not opening it, and also because he he he's so pious, he has to show Andy that he knows scripture verses by heart, so he never opens it either. Um, and maybe Andy is just memorizing verses for that reason. That could be, I don't know. That's one thing. If you want to watch that, tell me, is Andy actually a Christian, or is he just doing it to um, kind of MacGyver himself socially? Because he does that through the film certain ways. Um, but yeah, I think Shawshank is a much easier word to say than perseverance. So, and you can use it as a verb. So like, you should just Shawshank it. Seems like a handy phrase instead of you should have perseverance, or stick with it, stick to it. But that's not as fresh as you should just Shawshank it. Okay, the next two that I really liked, uh, Whiplash and The Prestige. Whiplash by Chazelle, who I think I like this director, and the other by Christopher Nolan. And of course, I like Christopher Nolan films. Um, yeah, they're both about this like masculine drive to master a certain field. Uh, the only thing I didn't like about Whiplash was the cult of jazz thing that was going on. Um, Now, it's not super on the nose. Uh, it's a little subtle, but still, I think it's there. It's like jazz is the best genre. Okay, period. Seems to be part of the message there. Um, the certain clues that I get for that, it could be just telling us about the character, the main character. Um, but anyway, great music, especially the last song. Um, there's the drumming coach. Well, not drumming, but just in general jazz um, leader, conductor, whatever. Uh, his that character is like super fierce, and people that I've talked to about it are like, it's like kind of wrong, yeah. And when I hear that, I'm like, kind of, but you see what's going on in the film is like his dad, the main character's dad, is like ready to accept him when he's defeated, but then the character's like, I cannot accept defeat. So he could like just hug his dad, but no, he's gonna just against all odds like stick to his craft. Um, I love that part, and the way that the mean coach is mean and everything. It's like that's like wrestling, Jacob wrestling with the angel, Jacob wrestling with God. Um, the way that God allows these unreasonable, absurd things to happen, the film sheds a really interesting light on that, because like you have to put your whole soul into something, and if you want to, master something, and that like I think that's true. The total focus on just jazz is, it's a little irritating to me. Maybe I'd love it totally if I also were a jazz guy, but it's, I don't think it's like the best or something. But uh yeah, the way the coach is, he does things that are like, somebody's out of pitch, and he's like drilling everyone, and like he ends up sending this guy out of the room, and it turns out that he was not the one that was out of tune. Um, and then he just goes on with the session and the practice without trying to look for the real person out of tune. And by the end of the film, you can tell that like that could have just been a lie, just to like shock and like stress people out, to make sure that everybody was like committed to that level. Um, is it rational? Is it even ethical? Okay, maybe not ethical. Definitely not legal anymore, if it ever was. But man, it's just that's life. Like he is a symbol of life. He is a symbol of like God's providence of these things, these challenges being allowed by God to happen. All right, so the Prestige, my favorite one of this bunch, and I would say a bit better than Whiplash even. Uh, well, actually, no, I gave it a 4. I gave Whiplash a 4.5. I think that's just because the accents were kind of off. The I don't know about the music. I heard it on like those little airplane earbuds. So uh, I don't know why. I guess so. It seems just as good at least. Anyway, the theme again is the masculine drive for mastery, of like obsession with one craft. Here it's magicians, and you have two of them, and you get to decide like who was Christian Bale's character like the real G, or was the other character? Um, is it true that he was like actually like the fake? And they're kind of compared to Tesla and Edison. Like Christian Bale's character is the real G, in my opinion. That's what I take from it. And he's compared with Tesla, and then the other guy's kind of the fake compared with Thomas Edison. And yeah, the other the bad magician is doing it for uh, prestige, but that's not why the film is named that. He's doing it for status, um, vanity, basically. Whereas Christian Bale's character is doing it like for. Well, okay, it's true. He's not exactly like a virtuous character. He's doing it for magic itself, like because he loves the craft. Which in a way is there is a logos of this, and so if you really love a craft that's not like man-made, uh, there is something about that. And then you might argue, okay, but he's like really bad to his wife, but not really. So she suspects him of having an affair and everything because in order for him to do his job, he has to have someone who looks exactly like him, and there's a sacrifice involved in the other guy looking like him, and the other guy is not so choosy, not so ethical with his choice of a partner, but ends up looking like um, Christian Bale's character is having an affair. But actually, if his wife really loved him, she would believe him when he said, "My craft is all about keeping a secret, and also his craft is about deception and things happening which you don't know if they're really happening." Uh, so if what's ironic is that if she really believed him, she would have had to suspend her judgment about whether he was having an affair too. Very yeah, very interesting uh, aspect of this. In the end, I think um, so. Alfred Borden, Christian Bale's character, is like actually the ethical one, and the other character was his name Robert Angier, is unethical. And this is another interesting thing because usually I hate movies with clones. Just don't like this. It's such an ugly. It's like a circus phenomenon. Another circus attraction. I don't like circuses. It's like a celebration of ugliness. Like we're supposed to celebrate ugliness and the inversion of everything. Okay, so uh, but basically ends up being like this human sacrifice system that this Robert Angier has to go through to make it. And you think, but he's just killing himself. Well, no, not really. it depends on your metaphysics, right? Like if you are physically duplicated and the duplicate has like all your memories and everything, um, first of all, yeah, that can't happen. But if it did, it wouldn't be you. It would be a separate consciousness. It would be a separate individual that starts out just like you and then might start to diverge in all of his idioms or whatever. Now, I'm not saying that it can be the same person, but it's someone who's exactly like you, um, because he's like a 3D printout. Um, but yeah, he's not like offing himself. Okay, this is another guy. He ends up killing over and over again, um, to make it. So yeah, kind of another one where you get the ethics of it from some metaphysics, but it's not even really clear whether this duplicate thing, the metaphysics of identity, is um, if a certain position on it is being pushed by the film. So I'm reading it that way though. Okay, that's it. Enjoy the viewing.